Today, we'll find out which candidates can stand as contenders to replace Nigel Farage as leader of UKIP. The party's National Executive Committee will make the final decision on who it should be. Nigel Farage yesterday described the Executive Committee as amateurs and the lowest grade of people that he's ever met. He's urged candidates to poll the party membership directly for big decisions. The apparent frontrunner MEP Stephen Woolfe missed the nominations deadline and is still waiting to hear whether he can stand. Officially, 6 candidates have declared their intention to stand. They are, as we just mentioned, Stephen Woolfe, Lisa Duffy, Bill Etheridge, Jonathan Arnott, Philip Broughton and Liz Jones. We'll be speaking to some of those candidates in a moment. First, our political correspondent, Carol Walker, joins us from Westminster. Carol, is it clear whether Stephen Woolfe is going to be able to stand or not?
No, that's still very much in doubt, Joanna. Morning. It's interesting that you've got quite a lineup of the candidates there, but not Stephen Woolfe. He's probably the front runner in this race, but he actually missed the deadline for getting his application in. Now, he's blamed the UKIP technicalities. He said the website simply wasn't working. He was trying to get his application through, but it did eventually land about 17 minutes late. Since then, there's also, it has emerged that he forgot to mention a previous drink-driving conviction when he ran to be the Police and Crime Commissioner in Greater Manchester back in 2012. Now, this was an offence that had occurred 10 years previously. He says he simply forgot about it, but that is clearly a further cloud over his application. Now, we've got a panel of the National Executive Committee who are meeting today to look at all the applicants. They could decide whether or not Stephen Woolfe is going to be on that list. But they could also decide that because there is such a row about all of this, it's better to put it back to the full National Executive Committee. But as you mentioned in that introduction there's a huge amount of infighting going on behind the scenes. Nigel Farage, the outgoing leader, of course, yesterday described the NEC as some of the lowest grade of people I've ever met. He described them as total amateurs who turn up for meetings in London with sandwiches in their rucksacks for meetings that go on for 7 hours. Now, I'm not sure it's actually too serious a crime to have sandwiches in your rucksack, but there's clearly a huge amount of manoeuvring and infighting going on behind the scenes.
I was just thinking, is that the worst of the offences that he's referring to? If Stephen Woolfe doesn't get to stand, what about the others? Is there a standout favourite?
Well, I think that would put the field wide open. You've got Liz Jones there. She's somebody who is probably certainly not well known to the wider public. She was out and about on the radio today talking about her track record. We've got 2 of the MEPs that are also standing. We've got another councillor who is in the running there, Lisa Duffy, who has got the backing of quite a few senior figures in the party. They see her as somebody who would modernise the party. She's a councillor. She's got a track record of working for UKIP in Cambridgeshire. I think the field would be wide open, but I think it is interesting that this is a party which, after all, garnered some almost 4 million votes at the last general election. A party whose pressure certainly contributed to David Cameron calling that EU referendum, which ultimately lost him his job. And there is now a field of people who are certainly not household names who are looking to take on the party and looking to what the party is actually going to stand for. What's its big motivation going to be now that the country has voted to leave the EU?
So just briefly, when is the decision taken?
We get the final decision later on in September. September the 24th, I think I'm right. No, September the 15th, forgive me. We'll get the final result. And so there's a full summer of campaigning and a chance, I think, for some of those lesser-known candidates to put themselves forward, to make themselves known, to get out and about around the country and make sure that the members of UKIP and the wider public get to know who they are.
Thank you, Carol. Well, let's talk to 4 of those candidates who have said that they are standing. Liz Jones, the Deputy Chairman for the Lambeth branch of UKIP. Lisa Duffy, a District Councillor in Huntingdon. Jonathan Arnott, the MEP for the North East. And Bill Etheridge, MEP for the West Midlands. Carol was describing you all as not being household names. So if you would introduce yourselves to us. starting with you, Liz, and we'll work our way around. Introduce yourself and tell us what you think UKIP is for going forward.
My name's Elizabeth Jones. I'm the Deputy Chairwoman of UKIP Lambeth, which is one of the most Europhile areas in the entire country. I'm also on the NEC, the National Executive Committee, and I'm also a divorce lawyer of some 20 years standing based in London. I have worked in the private sector my entire life. I am not a professional politician. My deputy is Councillor Lawrence Webb. He's the UKIP leader in the London Borough of Havering and has a great deal of campaigning experience behind him. Between us, we've contested 33 elections for UKIP, and I would say we've garnered about over 100,000 votes for the party together. Now, my platform is one of opportunity and trade. Also, we have to accept that the challenge for the new UKIP leader will have changed. Our primary motive for setting up UKIP was to leave the EU. Stage one of that has been passed. We won the referendum.
Quickly.
So we now have to pass on to stage two and get some MPs into Westminster.
All right. I wish I'd started this with a stopwatch, but Lisa, it's your go.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on the programme. I'm Councillor Lisa Duffy. I've been part of UKIP now for 12 years, and I've been a huge part of the success where we've got to today. So I built up the Young Independents from 3 round a table. I've been their party director. I built the team that managed the assessment centres.
Okay, and what's your vision for the future?
My vision for the future is about Westminster. We do not need Nigel Farage II. What we're looking for is a team builder, someone who has a proven track record, and I've done that through our Westminster by-elections.
But what would UKIP stand for? He said you've been the turkeys.
We have a wide-range manifesto, a fully costed manifesto from 2015. We need to make sure that we put some traction underneath that, sell those policies, but still not to be afraid to talk about contentious issues such as integration and having a positive vision for British Islam. So I think it's really important that the party continue on the strengths it's got, but now is the time to show the electorate we can go to Westminster.
Jonathan?
I'm Jonathan Arnott, a former maths teacher. I spent 6 years as General Secretary of UKIP, which might just help with uniting the party after this leadership election. And I'm now a member of the European Parliament for North East England. My campaign is all about reaching out to the 13.6 million people out there who voted for Brexit but didn't vote for UKIP at the last general election. We need to now be the party that is never, ever, ever anti-immigrant. But that is anti the uncontrolled mass net immigration, which has cost jobs and driven down wages. We need to start talking about the manifesto that we had in 2015. Yes, there may be some tweaks needed to our policies slightly, but actually, what we stand for, we need to get out there. We need to communicate that. We need to show our vision for what the UK can be like post-Brexit, our equivalent, perhaps, of Reagan's shining city on a hill. Let's show what the UK can be like, and let's use that as our way to build for the future and to get UKIP the seats that we need in Westminster to make a difference for the people of this country.
Bill Etheridge, your go.
Hi, and hello to all colleagues in the studio. My name's Bill Etheridge. I'm a councillor in Dudley. I'm also an MEP for the West Midlands, so I've seen politics domestically and in Europe. My whole platform for this election is combined with my running mate, Mike Hookham, the defence spokesman for UKIP, is that we're looking to reform the party to make us a more effective mechanism and to declare war on cronyism within the party. But then after that, we want to be a voice for the people against the establishment. We want to tackle the issues that get avoided by everyday politicians and really make a change in this country with personal liberty and freedom top of the list. OK.
Lisa, you talked about integration. Jonathan, you talked about not being anti-immigrant, but anti-immigration. Tell us more about what you mean when you talk, Lisa Duffy, about having a vision for a modernised British Islam.
I'm not going to go into great detail today, Joanna, because I will be launching that as part of my campaign going forward and doing a big speech on it.
But this is your
what I want
to sort of
what I want to talk about today is about integration.
Watching.
We feel that, you know, the UK is a fantastic place, and I think, as Jonathan said in the past, we've got to get the great back into Great Britain. And I think it's important
that's political platitudes, isn't it? What about specific policy?
Specific policy, and as I say, I will be launching properly with a full speech either at the end of this week, beginning of next week. But what we've got to think about is there are huge amounts of Muslim people, British Muslims living in our country, that don't get full equality. And when Jonathan talks about immigration, it's about having a fair immigration policy.
So spell out what you mean by full equality. You must have a specific policy when you talk about something like that.
Yeah, and if you think about young Muslim women, they don't have the same rights. You know, I've worked with many of them when I was working in Manchester,
So
when I was
spell out
working
the
in
rights you'd like
when I
to
was
see.
working in Woking, and these young ladies wanted to go out and follow Western styles. They wanted to go out with boyfriends, but they were being restricted. You've got FGM that's a really big problem. You've got arranged marriages that they don't want to be part of. So we need to think about what does being a British Muslim actually mean in this day and age. But there are a whole host.
Okay,
We've got a full manifesto, don't forget, that we really will be selling.
I know that you've specifically got a policy on this, Bill Etheridge. You want to ban the burqa. Tell us why.
Yes, indeed. It's a security issue. You know, I don't mind what people do for their cultural values or for their religious values. That's one of the great freedoms of our country. But we are in a severe security situation. And if you're in a public place, security sensitive, I'm afraid you've got to show your face, and that means any face covering.
Do you all agree with that policy?
It's part of UKIP policy already, is about having your face covered, not covered in high security areas. So that is a policy that we've all been backing for the last few years.
Look, the way you have to look at this is very simple. It's the motorcycle helmet test. If there is an area where you couldn't go somewhere wearing a motorcycle helmet, then I think it's inappropriate for people to then be wearing the burqa. If it's not secure to be in a place where your face can't be seen, then that's a problem. But I wouldn't say that you'd ban it for simply people walking down the street. I think that would be going too far. But just to come back on what you said earlier...
You're qualifying what you think.
It's a security issue as far as I'm concerned in areas where there is a security question. But that doesn't mean that you ban it absolutely everywhere.
Where do you draw the line then? Someone walking down the street?
Well, as I say, it would be if you look, for example, at if you're going through airport security, then you have to show your face. If you're at a bank or an area where the face needs to be seen.
Policy that you're talking about.
Well, I'm talking about, you know, very much as Bill is. It's about high security areas.
So it's a blanket ban
Yes.
on the burqa. Liz?
My view is that we have to take a delicate approach to this. We do not want to do anything that is counterproductive. If we look at the desperately tragic incidents that have happened in France recently, luckily they have not happened in the United Kingdom, and I think that's because we have developed a very good relationship in the United Kingdom with all the national groups who live here. And I think that needs to be maintained and cherished. Now, with regard to the burqa...
So where does sending out... Yes, sorry, the message about the burqa sit with that?
Now, I am a family solicitor, so I deal intimately with many divorces that involve people who are from the various religious backgrounds who do wear these, the burqa. We need to take a very subtle approach. I think that the burqa does send out a very strong message to perhaps many non-Muslim women and many moderate Muslim women that this is excluding women from public society. And I think that with regard to security measures in courts, as Jonathan says, in airports, anywhere where there's a very serious security risk, I think the face will have to be uncovered.
I mean, obviously what you're saying is absolutely different to how a lot of people will see it about religious sensitivities. When you make comments like that, where do you think that leaves tolerance and
what comment have you said that I've made? Because I've just said that we must not do anything that's counterproductive. I've just said that we have a very good relationship with all the communities in this country. I would say probably far more so than in France. And let's not forget that in Iran and in Turkey, those two countries, as I understand, have banned the burqa. And really, I'm sure they know far better than we do about security risk. So we need to take an approach that's not counterproductive, that is inclusive, but is also ensures our safety. And I think that the burqa should not be worn in court. It's incredible that anyone giving witness in court has their face covered. The burqa should not be worn in an airport situation, but in a private setting, of course, you wear whatever you wish. And if you're walking down the street, I don't really see a major issue with that unless, as I say, it's going to likely to be leading to a security risk. But it's all about security and it's all about inclusion. We want everyone to be included in the country.
And around the EU referendum, there was a rise in the number of attacks, verbal and otherwise, on people living here from other countries, whether by descent or as first generation. Are you sensitive to those sorts of issues?
Well, of course we're sensitive to those sorts of issues, and I think what we saw during the referendum campaign was that the Project Fear of the Remain campaign that was telling everybody that that anybody who opposed uncontrolled immigration. I heard you said earlier, you said earlier that that I'd expressed opinions which were anti-immigration. I did nothing of the sort. What I said was that we must be opposed to uncontrolled mass net immigration, and this is what UKIP's all about. We're all about control. But the problem is that when you have people from the other side of a debate who sling mud constantly, who try to make it out that you stand for something that you don't stand for, that try to make it out that you believe something you don't believe, it is going to heighten tension.
Do sometimes, I mean, do people hear what they want to hear, and therefore comments that are made can give rise to a justification for something that perhaps you don't agree with?
Look,
I have to say, I must take you to task with this issue. I've heard it time and time again that there is allegedly a massive increase, well, not massive, but an increase in these sorts of comments or attacks post-Brexit. I don't accept it. A lot of these comments may well be...
The police have been putting out statistics that do back that up.
What does that mean? So someone said something that someone disagrees with on Twitter, someone said something someone disagrees with on Facebook.
Well, it means that factually there are more people reporting complaints.
Well, that there was one major incident which was misrepresented by the Evening Standard in London, and that was the centre called POSC, and that's a London Polish community centre. Now, after the Brexit debate, that had graffiti written across it, FUC. I don't know how...
OK, well, let's not go there.
I think what you discussed as OMP is blah, 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 OMP. Now, this was misrepresented by the media as being racist. Why? I don't know, because OMP is a Polish language think tank which was supportive of Brexit, and basically...
It sounds like there was a swear word alongside
there
it.
There was, but that was two rival think tanks.
OK, sorry, you wanted...
It's about intellectual ideas, a clash.
In terms of hate crimes, even on the council that I sit on in Huntingdonshire, we actually took a unanimous vote on supporting anti-hate crimes, because we don't agree with it, none of us agree with it, none of us sat here agree with it. And even in the local community that I live in Ramsey, in Cambridgeshire, we had reports of immigrants having their door knocked saying, do you know, if you get Brexit, they're going to send you home. This was Project Fear, and I'm hoping now that the weeks after Brexit, it's all calming down, Project Fear is getting less and less. But actually, we do need to be sensitive, and that's why on anything that we talk about in terms of immigration, we have to have a very soft line, but a hard outcome.
Bill Etheridge, what does UKIP stand for going forward? Why does it still need to exist when Britain is leaving the EU, which obviously was effectively the raison d'etre? It's happening.
UKIP needs to exist more than ever now. The whole point of why most of us are involved in UKIP wasn't just about leaving the EU. Leaving the EU was opening the door so we could make some serious radical change to our country. We've got to get rid of the overpowering state, too many rules and regulations, too much taxation, frankly. Let's start giving people some more freedom. The freedom to keep more of their own money in their pocket would be good, with a total change to the tax system, make it simpler. Let's look at replacing VAT with a local sales tax and allowing some real competition across the country on taxation. The kind of innovations that we can bring into play now on security and the economy can make our country a better and safer place, and UKIP can be the voice of the people against the tired old establishment that has kept them down for so long. This is our time to really represent the people.
Absolutely, and Bill's right on that. Bill is absolutely right. And I think the way I'm best placed is I am a local councillor, I'm common, I'm grassroots, I've been in the party for 12 years, and I've been around the country building those Westminster by-elections up, knocking on doors and hearing just what the British public are asking for. So I think going forward, we're all of agreement. It's now about Westminster. It's about building on the policies that we've got already, but having a leader that is able to build teams and bring people together.
we need to be the party that's not just about bringing power from Brussels to Westminster, but also the party that takes that power from Westminster and gives it right back into the hands of the people. We need to be the party that starts reaching out to working class communities, the people who have been despised by the Conservatives for so long and now find themselves completely abandoned by the Labour Party. UKIP has a massive potential for a breakthrough in places like Hartlepool in my constituency, where we're just 3,000 votes short of beating Labour at the last general election, where I'm sure if there were a general election tomorrow, we would take seats like Hartlepool. So I believe that we have a massive potential there, but only if we talk about the issues that actually matter to working people.
We're right out of time. We're right out of time. We will get that result. Remind me, I scribbled it. September the 15th.
It's 16th.
So lots of campaigning and policy announcements between now and then. Thank you all, though, very much for coming in.